Oh, yes, indeedy we do, and indeed we cannot fight that feeling anymore. Ooh, just like REO Speedwagon couldn't back in the day either, man. There's no sense fighting that feeling, man. The more you fight it, the more intense it gets. The more radiant the love around you becomes. The more real your eyes see the reality around you. You start to lose the facade, inevitably. The harder you fight, the more you resist, the more it reveals itself. So, you know, fighting and resisting is probably the same as going with the flow. It's just a little more difficult way of getting there, right? Because you feel like you're swimming upstream all the time because the flow is against you, man. Especially these days. You can't hang on to the old paradigm any longer. It's bullshit reality and all that authoritarian dickheadedness out the windows, babies, because the way of the heart is the way of truth, and the way of the truth is the way of now, which is the heart in motion and everything and everyone. Of course, babies, what else would it be? I mean, that's what we're revealing to ourselves quite naturally as we flow on into this Free Day Friday. Yes, indeed, here on this Coyote Medicine Show, only on the Hazy Radio Network, don't you know? You feel your heart coming free? You feel your life coming back to you? Well, troopers, here's to you, babies. You frickin' rock, and we love you for it, man. Goodness gracious. And in fact, old Mary Jane has persuaded me that it's a good time that I should have a little sacred sacrament with you here too, babies, while we're at it. You betcha. The divine herb of love, man. The heart-opening miracle that'll save you from just about every doggone disease ever there was, you know, if you just pay attention, kids. Hey, and guess what? 2,400-year-old bongs being found over there in the eastern parts of the world, man. It's amazing shit going on, man. And now they're finding, you know, residue of THC on what appears to be a asteroidal piece of stone that probably came from a bunch of stoned out hippie ETs up there floating around, and somebody pushed the wrong button and blew them all up. Damn. You should not have do that, kids. Here's to you and the sweet Mary Jane that helps you make it through, babies. Always. My goodness, who'd want to fight a feeling like that? I mean, that's going with the flow, that's being in your heart, that's living life as a very, very precious living work of art, babies. We are the artistes of life, man, the very creators of the world in which we live. Yes, indeed, it flows through us quite naturally, same way water flows down the stream, man, you know. And it quite naturally brings this rich abundance wherever it goes, man. This is the water of life. This is the love of life, bringing itself forward in life. Life, life, life. Because we're living, man. We're feeling. We're learning how to experience life in a real way now, instead of in these old superficial representative ways that we've been taught before, man, that we had to adapt into as we grew up, or at least that's what we kind of saw, you know. Babies, I learned some hard lessons early on. I know you did too, you know. But the facade still remains, you know, until we're ready to let go of our characterization. This person that we're so richly in love with here, which really is our ever-present self, and see it as a very precious expression of the larger whole. That we are the work of art, as well as the creation around us, see? And then you start to think and dream and be collectively gathered in this creation. And you think with a singular thought and move forward with a singular motion with all of this creation. It's called divine harmony. It's the symphony of life performed with utmost perfection. Nobody can miss a note. And yeah, there's lots of harmonicas in that old band. If you believe in forever and life is just a one-night stand, if there's a rock and roll heaven, well, you know they got a hell of a band. Well, we got it right here. We didn't have to go to heaven to prove it, did we? Heaven's right here, babies, in the music of our heart, in the musical forms of our ever-loving and collective expression. See, when you can appreciate your own person enough to allow it to be loved by everything, and in that love be creating everything and living in that experience of everything, the feeling of it. I mean, you talk about expansive growth. There you are. Now that's a challenge to human heart right now, isn't it? Yet it's not at all. It's just saying, hey, do you want to live naturally? Do you really want to know what you are? Let yourself feel this then. Let yourself step in this nice little warm pool of water and feel the embryonic love of life surrounding you and bringing you back to life. Like a brand new child, and every breath you take is a new moment. Every sight you see, every feeling that races through you, man. Precious, a new beginning beyond belief. Of movement away from the superficiality of this bullshit reality that we've had to fake our way through and hide our true feelings so greatly, in order to accommodate the presence of others, etc. See, so it's an act of love. It's sacrifice all the way around. But it's not sacrifice, because it's an act of love. We've propped each other up in this way. And in little moments of time where we could snatch a little love, babies, we preserved our lives and kept ourselves going. We acknowledged the mother love in it all, that underlying love that just keeps everything steadily flowing. That is the stream of life. It's the mother of love. It's in the water of life. The flow. And now we're beginning to feel that, and it's making us kind of glow and come back to life and experience a more conscious presence in everything that surrounds us and that's inside of us. It's a unified thing, a reflective reality that just exponentiates itself out in great waves and levels and just grows from here ever outward. I mean, there is no end to the expanse of love. There is no beginning. It's just right here, right now. It's ever loving. It's ever expansive, ever growing, because it is so in love with what? Itself, in creation. It's like this God figure that so many people have held in their heart as something external and superior to themselves. Instead of being all of that, the good parent dissolves into you the same way that generations dissolve into our presence of being. Well, that's the person of creation dissolving into us, the one person in all. That's why we can feel deeply all of creation and everything in it, and love ourselves for it, and love ourselves beyond comprehension. At least at the present moment, but yet we do comprehend, don't we? So there is no limit to our comprehension. When you understand, you are real, and you are what you feel, and that is real. And that's the one real thing we can rely on here, is what we feel. We've been taught to distrust our feelings, to push them away from ourselves, to be, very logical and kind of self-analytical and critical of ourselves, etc. It's a cultural thing. It goes all across the board, man. This is how we're taught. We got to be adults. We got to put away all of our childish feelings, quote, quote, and move on with life. Get tough. Be, sturdy. Be the warrior. Yeah, right. The troopers. Well, we've had to be troopers, but troopers of the heart. We preserve that love. We preserve that innocence, man, inside of ourselves, And yeah, we did what we had to do to adapt into this world somewhat. If you're like me, the compromise that they ask of you was often far too much, and so I said, screw you, I ain't doing that. I'll go do something else. And I've always found a way to get by. It wasn't always the easiest thing, but it was always fun. And if it wasn't fun and started to get sour on me, shoot, I'd get on with something else. I wasn't afraid of change because there was so much of it in my life in my early days. I flipped around like a banana peel, slipping all over the place, man. I learned to go with the flow real early on, but, I still resisted. I still, had my energies unleashed back in those days, just like, most everybody around did. We all dealt with the, equally challenging passions and emotions and things like that in those days, but by God, we were finally free to explore them, which our parents and ancestors for hundreds of years, maybe thousands, maybe millions, hadn't had the opportunity to do. We sure as hell did. There was a great awakening in my generation, man, you know, across the mass of humanity, not just in the U.S. of A. We might have started something here. Sometimes we do, despite all of our incredible restrictions, you know. You know what's really funny, you know, here we are setting ourselves free. But when I was a child, you know, the big speech, you know, the big political speech they gave all of us little kids and tried to ingrate into our little minds at the time, because we had this bitter enemy across the ocean from us that was going to blow the piss out of us if we didn't watch ourselves, you know. And they were really awful people over there because, you know, they didn't really have a chance to vote for anybody for their presidente. I mean, it was just whoever it was, you know, the powers that be just selected a couple of persons, and of course the only one that's going to get elected is the favored child, and that's just the way it worked there. And then all of their news and stuff was controlled by the government, so it was complete propaganda, you know. And it was just a horrible, awful place to be, and all these poor folks just didn't know how misled they were, you know, but they were to be feared greatly because one person over there, this great dictator, could push a button and kill us all, man. And we had to crawl under our school desks and bend over and kiss our little heinies goodbye, you know, in accordance with government regulations and shit. Well, God, all that world that we feared back then, and thank God it never happened. What a bunch of crazy propaganda that was, man. Bullshit reality and then some, you know. Well, these days it's kind of funny to me how ironic it is that what they preached against so vociferously when I was a child, you know, when they were berating everybody else and building up the land of the free, home of the slave kind of bullshit reality. Well, hell, we've just moved right into a world that's even more wicked than that, man. And this fucking government's completely out of hand here, you know. And it's gone insane. And, you know, we can't get a free election if we try. I mean, you know, we got hand-picked candidates, you know, like Georgie Jr. Nobody would vote for him for president, you know. Nobody. I mean, God, the guy's a clone, for heck's sakes. He's got about as much personality as a pissant. Pissant's got more personality than Georgie Jr. In my humble opinion, I'm not trying to insult anybody, just a statement of simple fact. We all knew that. And we all knew he stole that first election. Hands down. I can't imagine how much, what's his name, and his old lady got to, you know, move off to the tropics for a while and shut the heck up and let the Bushes take over, you know. Poor old, the guy that ran against him, I can't even remember his name now. He's such a mundane little clone, too. But he was a hell of a lot classier clone than the Bushy one, let me tell you. That guy couldn't lead his way out of the bathroom, let alone anywhere else. I mean, you talk about a joke of a president. That was the worst one we'd polled in a long time, man. That was a complete absurdity. That was Alfred E. Newman in the White House. And all he could do was sit there and grin. He couldn't lead his way, again, out of the bathroom, man. This guy was a shock to humanity, that such an idiot, you know, obviously a little patsy boy, could, you know, rise to such a high office. It was that's when the really high office became completely demeaned and meaningless, you know, because you knew it was visible that this dude was just a patsy, that he just passed along and did whatever evil thing he was instructed to do, you know, completely howdy-doodied, you know, and he looked like howdy-doody. You remember the old puppet character from way back in the wind? Most of you won't, but some of you will, you know. And it's like, that's what this character is. I mean, you know, but when we changed, finally got that little dinky out of there, you know, and changed hands there for a little bit. Well, guess what? It turns out that even though this new clone is a great orator and can really, you know, motivate the people, he ain't been doing much more than the same things that old Bushy did. He even kept the same Secretary of Defense and kept the wars going, man, despite his promises otherwise, you know. I think the Peace Prize was given a little early. Now, you don't hear me getting political very often, and I'm not, really. I'm just talking about how hollow and empty the leadership positions are, how meaningless they are, and the persons that occupy those. We give them far too much attention. You see, they're not really a part of this reality. They're a part of the bullshit reality. They, you know, and these are the beings that we're having to get to Even though they are, in essence, clones. I'm sorry, but these people, the real person, were whoever they were and wherever they were, is long gone. They're camped out on Mars or something somewhere, The people we have in these positions are clones. They're robots, biological robots. But guess what? Even though they be engineered beings, they still have that little thread of human consciousness. I don't care. You can't breed it out of a human presence. You can't breed it out of a life. Really, that consciousness is in everything. And this is what they're beginning to find out, because we can touch the hearts of clones, of empty, absent clones, and bring them back to life. But that's what we're doing here by what? By allowing ourselves to get clear, see? And then we can affect those, and we influence them quite magically, quite automatically. We don't even have to think about it. Such is the nature of the unity of love and the unity amongst humanity, that collective nature that I refer to, see? So even though it sounds like I'm a little hostile and bitter about some of the clowns we've allowed ourselves to be, quote, quote, leaders in this world, they really don't lead anything. They have no power. Zero. And neither do the persons that automate and try to control and contain and regulate through them. You know what I mean? It's an insane desire to have control over the people here. Because the collective heart rules, and it always has and it always will. And there's no way you can enslave that. There's no way you can kill it off either. And in fact, we're moving into areas now where the danger of death is not going to be held so greatly as it once was. You see, there are times of unity, and we feel it inside of us right now. And it's absurd to think these little puppet patsies could in any way influence or affect that except as another person in this reality, and only through conscious presence. Otherwise, they have no force here. None. Same with the senators, Congress people, the armies, the militaries, the secret space programs. You got no power. You got zip. You're starting to find that out, see? Empty, hollow beings create empty, hollow things. Superficial realities to live in. Holograms. Now think about that. How empty that unreal world is, and how awful it is to have to live in an empty place like that. Because we all know it. We've all harbored an empty place in ourselves. We don't often indulge it, but it's been there, babies. That's why we see it outside of ourselves, Because we've allowed ourselves to feel that emptiness, as if there was some separation at some point in time that so grievously hurt us, we could never let it go. We felt separated from our mother love, our mother energy. We felt as if we'd been cast adrift and just let to drift wherever we would in the void of space and time and shit, I mean, that was kind of the essential feeling the beginners had after there was this great change, and the density came into being, and conflict became a reality, that we lived in. We felt like we'd really lost something there, So there's been this grieving for the return of what we thought we lost. See, and we replicate that every time somebody dies or moves on around us. We feel that ancient grief again. All grief is based on that, all of it. And in reality, there is no grief. We step joyously into this situation as the spirit presences that we are, knowing it was going to be a tough old road to hoe, and knowing that we might not make it. Yet we saw at the end of that entire timeline that we were about to step into, that we did in fact make it, that we were already there, and joyously so. And that gave us the strength to step into it, to lose ourselves in this dumbed-down caveman reality, to beat each other up like crazy forever and ever, to compete and hate and revile, all those ugly things that kind of went with it, torture one another. I mean, good God. But we found, and this is what we're seeing now, the emptiness in all of that. The emptiness that can never be fulfilled. That's hell itself. But in that is also the key to paradise. You see, You made it through. You never lost your integrity. You never lost your heart. You never lost the feeling. You went numb. You went asleep. You sleptwalked, Mr. Magooish, through this old life. And we let leaders rise up that were empty, hollow shells, which really were a reflection of what we were becoming, empty, hollow shells. We'd seen ourselves that way for too long. It was starting to become our reality. You see? So personless persons could rise up to lead us that had no personality. Because we were starting to feel that way too. At least a part of us, inside of us, felt that way. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been reflected back to us in this cruel and haughty and insane way. I mean, it was total and complete arrogance of the powers that were to allow such persons to step into such positions. It made them, look like stupid little clowns. It made the position look like nothing. I mean, there was no honor, there was no glory in it anymore, and there never really needed to be, because we should never rise one above another or allow anybody to have any power like that comes from that empty place. Because emptiness cannot fulfill itself. It can just feel more empty and more empty and more empty, more removed from the reality until what? It has to spring back into the reality, because emptiness ain't real. And unity is. Simple as that. Emptiness is the fucking illusion, man. But people had to know that reality in order to appreciate this one, which is the real love in every moment we ever live, every moment we ever projected into being in any way, shape, or form. Our essence, our creative self, that grand great spirit's been alive and active within us through that divine feminine energy, which supports you no matter how wickedly terrible and evil and far removed from her you get. She's always there inside of you. She's a part of you. Same way your parents are. Like it or not, babies, you are that flesh and blood going forward, and they're dying off to give you all the rest of it. The burden and the blessings of all the generations pass into us now in completion. And guess what? We can complete it because we are alive in that love. And we don't have to accept the bullshit reality. We see the insanity, the stupidity, the meaningless purposes being fulfilled that aren't purposes at all. The empty beings, the empty presence, the powerlessness in all of that. And because we see it that way, we disengage anything that's ever done here. We disengage ourselves from that reality. We don't empower it anymore. We live in the land of dreams, the land of loving dreams. And we know how to change everything, and that's what we're here to fucking do. We ain't going to just sit around on the palatial estates of love and, party and do a little nose candy every now and then, etc. None of that shit, man. Our party is more a party in joyous experience. A reality that is so doggone happy, makes us so happy, that we can't help but dance and play and party and make more beautiful creative music and add it to the divine symphony of life, you see. That's our natural way of being. And guess what? That's where the power is. The very thing they've always tried to make us put away is the very thing that liberates us on this day. The childlike innocence, that creative nature of love, the innocent eyes that feel everything as new. Every breath, every moment that we live, every feeling that we have, every fleeting fantasy as well, all of it divinely nurtured and appreciated for its existence here, for the thought, the intelligence that it represents, for the feeling in it, the flow of it. And our individual expressions, flowing into that, which makes the grand stream of life, the whole symphony of life, the whole river of love joined by all these beautiful drops of water that are the very little specters of creative life itself, the essence of creation. And each and every one of us is little drops in that grand stream in the great ocean that draws it to it again and again and cycles it around. The grand water of life, the great cycle of life, earth, air, and sky, and the water. Yeah, baby. The ethereal is what's real. that which vaporizes sometimes right before your very eyes. You see, well, now that hazy image, the vapor image, is becoming the reality in which we have lived. The bullshit reality, as we call it, where superficial, empty, hollow beings can reign over us? I don't think so. I don't think we accept that kind of leadership anymore, and I don't think we ever really did. I think we always knew better. We just gone along to get along for a little while till we could wake up and remember. And then the divine presence takes its place, and if we live in this creative love, well, we're changing everything anyway, and the bullshit reality is powerless against us. Can't stop the flow of love, the journey of ascension. It's here. Because it's a completing moment, you know, it's a beginning moment as well. Because as we complete this cycle, we begin that cycle. Same way the water returns to the ocean and gradually becomes vapor in the air again and passes through the ethereal back into the material as raindrops and snowdrops on the mountains of love and so forth. Becomes again the streams and rivers of life. You see, it's an ever-repeating cycle that never ends. And it's not so filled with rough weather anymore. It's a reality, it's a truth, it's a constantly expansive way of being. And when you understand the cycle and flow of it, you're in it. And you are it. You see, there is no consciousness separate from ours. Our consciousness is a unified thing. I call it the collective for lack of better terminology. But it's a unified thing. It's a thinking, breathing, living heart. The child's heart, the innocent heart, the one we've been taught to hate and berate and grow away from. Don't be childish. Yet in that innocence is the purest of loving creation given. You see it in the divine innocence of a baby child, yes. Firstborn, yes. You feel it there. You understand it there for a moment. And then it's gone. Not anymore, man. We're recovering. That which is so harshly taken away from us when we begin in this life. As these baby children, we're taking back that innocent love, and we get to express it from the wisest heart in the universe. That same heart we just recovered from inside of ourselves, from inside of our experience here. That same heart we're remembering now, the child's heart, which can't see it anything but innocently, and wonders why nobody around it ever understood that, and why it had to put itself away for a while. You see? But it doesn't question it, it just rolls with it, it flows with it. It's a baby, you know? It knows how to bend and twist with the reality. It's a very coyote little baby, built-in automatic instincts that just take care of it. Keep it moving in the right direction, because that's the loving thing to be doing. It's the coyote way, the way of the coyote heart, the mystical heart of mischievous, innocent reality. You know, born of love, man, born of the need to create, born of the need to reunionate with itself all the time and never feel divided. Shoot. The division is the unreality, and it is empty. Yet the reality is filled with love in every moment that's lived, even the empty ones. Truth fulfills itself in this way. You find love in the empty places. You found love everywhere, in everything. Funny how that works. See the divine paradox at play here? See how we have played ourselves into it and played ourselves through it in order to reacquaint ourselves with our full presence? And not just this particulate little being that we be, but the full multidimensional presence of our true experience here. That's what we're rising up into from that little child's heart. It's wise enough to let itself do that. And it knows the timing is just right. It doesn't even question it. It just says, perfect, let's get on with it. And the dance of life begins here now, with you and I and all the rest of this tribe. And then some. And then some, and then some, and then some. Free Day Friday on the Coyote Medicine Show. You never know what you're going to get here, but it always helps you get it clear, baby. You just start to realize what life's really all about. and how much God-blessed fun it is to live here and not be depressed by what you see going on around you. Because you know you're willing to change it, and so's the collective, or it wouldn't be thinking that way in you right now, would it? Yet it is. Therefore it is, and therefore these other beings have no power in this presence. We destabilize all the destructive plans by what? Being loving to everyone and everything, even the empty beings that we see before us, trying to be in positions of leadership when they couldn't lead themselves out of a wet paper bag. I can hear Dick Cheney snickering in the background. I knew it, man. I knew I couldn't get away without talking about him. That guy, he's just such ripe material for the comedic coyote medicine, man. A puppet leading puppets. I just love it, man. And just a happy little evil being. You can't help it, man, but admire them for their earnestness. Their willingness to be so bad and kill us all off without batting an eyeball, man. I mean, you gotta admit, that's complete arrogance. That's complete emptiness. You can't have such arrogance unless you're cotton picking empty, because there's no way else you could ever believe it, you know, not as a human being. You really got to be absent from yourself to live in such places. That's why I make such a poster boy out of Dick Cheney. And also because of our common roots in the western U.S. and some of the common attitudes and cultures we rose out of out here, you know. I understand his evil ways, but I also see the love. You know, we're just helping the dude wake up, really, you know. Because he's kind of an elemental being there, so why not, you know, shit. Kick his little ass with a little sweet love and see if it doesn't help matters move along a little bit. Bring some life into these empty shells. See if that doesn't help move life along a little bit. See? You see how coyote and creative we are? You know, it's just when you can live yourself in the heart and you start to see the joke in it, then you can have some fun with it. Then you can play with creation the way a child would. You see? Man, we can build some sandcastles here. We can have a lot of fun doing it. We can get everybody together doing it. We can have a blast, man. It's time. Ding dong. Wake up call. Grandpa Coyote calling. Heart of the universe within us. All going, wow, man. Time to wake up and be expansive. Smell the coffee now? Oh, you will, babies. You will. Because it's brewing everywhere, babies, and its aroma cannot be hidden. And no one can run from it, and no one can hide from it, because it's an aroma that permeates and transforms everything. Wake up call, baby. Here you go, y'all, with Grandpa Coyote on yet another precious flight here. Ooh, as we take off into the great daylight, the sunrise in our heart, here in the Hazy Radio Network with the Coyote Medicine Show. Your morning wake-up call, don't you know? Hey, you're going to enjoy this one, baby. Comes from way long ago, but ooh, it's so exponentially expansive, man. I hope you've enjoyed today's show as much as I have. I divinely appreciate hanging out with you guys and sharing the energies of life one with another and gathering together in this communal heart in this communal way and helping this earth release herself from the tragic way, helping ourselves find a life of great comfort and ease inside as well as outside of ourselves, and returning this earth to her natural place of being as the respected grandmother of life at the center of all. And each and every one of us, her grandchildren in motion, love in motion, creation in motion. What a divine place to be. What an incredibly awakening we are beginning to experience now. And it shall continue from here till we get it real clear, and even then we'll always be growing. I mean, it never stops, baby. There's plateaus, but they're just resting places. They're just little moments in time where you feel sublime, and then you grow on from there, man. Life is ever growing, ever expansive in an experience, which is how we got here in the first place, you know. I guess in some ways, in some relative respects, we needed the challenge. Well, we certainly got that, and we got through it, and here we are now as we get down to it, employing the true reality of our creative heart here. You'll be surprised what you get clear this weekend, babies. Just watch how it happens. Let yourself flow with it. And if you're fighting and resisting, well, notice that too, man. Embrace it. Say, yeah, I should righteously be afraid of that, eh? But why? Why should I be afraid to be expansive and to know and be in creation? Now a little something to consider as you chew on the fat essence of life this weekend and enjoy yourself. Man, it gets smoother and smoother from here on out, babies. The hard, bumpy stuff is behind us. Yeah. We're rolling along with our wings spread, babies. We're flying high. And you know why. So I'll see you next Monday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 a.m. here in the mountains, 4 a.m. over there on the Pacific Coast. Oh, yeah, I don't know what time it is in Hawaii and Australia. You guys figure it out. But we're there, babies. Whenever you need us, we're there. Always, Now go ahead and blossom and grow, babies, and I'll embrace you all weekend long, and we'll see you Monday morning feeling stronger, babies, because we got along a whole lot longer and got a whole lot more accomplished over this weekend, don't you know? Just sitting there being the little love bunnies that we are and getting in the glow. Wildflowers, every one, don't you know?
Let her cry, for she's a lady. Let her dream, for she's a child. Let the rain fall down upon her. She's a free and gentle flower growing wild.
Huh? Look at this guy. He's ready to rock. He's ready to roll. He's ready to go.